Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Owner's Box After Dark. I know I've been away for a long time. Did you miss me? I am your host, Mark Farinella, the former assistant sports editor, Patriots beat writer, columnist, and you name it, I did it, for a newspaper here in southeastern Massachusetts, and I have transformed myself into a blogger and broadcaster now. So if you didn't know that, 36 episodes into this, why am I still telling you? Anyway, yes, it's been a while since I've been here. I have been so busy. I've been working left and right, doing games, covering games, announcing games, losing my voice at games, and I have some video clips to let you know what I've been doing. But in the meantime, I will just say that this is, of course, Friday, January 29th, 2021, and I am recording this from the cluttered but beautiful confines of Fulton Pond Studios in Mansfield, Massachusetts, where it is about 16 degrees right now at 9:12 in the evening. Beautiful full moon rose over the pond, and I was going to take some video of it, but it's too darn cold to be outside. Yeah, it's awful. And we haven't had a bad winter so far, so the drink of choice is coffee. It's my own knockoff of a latte. Basically, it's Starbucks Sumatra blend coffee with whipped cream on top. And I use Splenda. Trying to be conscientious about that. I'm eating, as you saw me before. I mean, I had to get something in my stomach. This is Pastaroni, a knockoff of the San Francisco treat, I guess. It's actually pretty good if you don't let it dry out like I seem to be doing. I was going to make some spaghetti and meatballs tonight, or just maybe some spaghetti, something. But it would have taken too long. This stuff is ready in about 5 minutes. Delicious Parmesan sauce. Do I have it all over my face? Anyway. So what have I been doing? Well, between rehabbing my sore knee and then maybe re-injuring it again, I'll let you know about that in a little while. I am doing what I've been doing for the last 3 years, which is working, sometimes for pay, sometimes not, doing play-by-play for high school basketball and hockey. Cue Lady of Spain, Mr. Music. Yes, I did one hockey game, and you'll see a clip from that to show you exactly how good I am at hockey. But I've done a lot of great basketball, Mansfield High School boys and girls, King Philip Regional High School boys and girls. I did not get a chance to do Foxborough games this year. They banned all spectators because of COVID-19. So the only way that Coach Lisa Downs could get any of the kids' parents into the games was to have them working the cable TV crew. So they have 4 cameras at a game, I think, and 3 of them are manned by volunteer parents. And they have a couple of parents on a rotating basis every week doing the play-by-play. No comment. I mean, I'll tune in the games because they're always archived on Foxborough Cable Access's YouTube site. I wish I could have done some of the games, especially for Caitlin Mollica's last year. Caitlin Mollica, for those of you who don't know, is one of the best players in our area. She's a diminutive, maybe 5'6", 5'7" guard, senior, has over 1,300 career points, would have had a lot more than that if not for the shortened seasons this year. I believe she is committed to Stonehill College for next year, which is great, and I'm glad for her for that. And but I would have liked to seen her play her senior year in person. You know, you watch a kid play for 4 years and see her win 2 state championships along the way, and you'd like to offer support and enjoy what you're seeing. because even though new players come along and all that, it's always that special moment when, someone who's really good is coming to the close of one phase of her career and then moving on to another. So, unfortunately, I won't get to see her this year. But the Massachusetts Interscholastic Athletic Association this year lifted the ban on live television coverage of high school events. And I'm so glad they did, because we go live now. And so many games get archived on either YouTube or their own cable television sites that I get to see plenty of basketball, and it helps me in my scouting for my announcing. So, I want to know what the other team is like, even if they're not from the original area that I covered as a newspaper writer. I want to know what they have, and it makes it a better broadcast for me to be able to tell you something about the other team, instead of just saying, little Joni made a basket. Isn't that wonderful? But she's not as good as my daughter. Cable TV, local access, which is why I really appreciate working for North TV. North TV, North Attleboro Community Television, is a nonprofit corporation, and it is a municipal outfit. It's run by the town of North Attleboro, and they created a commission and board of directors and all that. And my longtime friend Peter Gay is the boss over there. And when I lost my job in Attleboro, I got the phone call. He said, "Hey, want to come in and do some TV with us?" I said, "Sure, fine." And so I have. After 1 year of being a sidekick, I got to have the leadership role when they decided to start doing King Philip Regional High School in the neighboring towns of Plainville, Wrentham, and Norfolk. So, with my old buddy Alex Salaki, the former Zavarian Brothers coach, and as I call him, my brother from another mother, and who has been a two-time guest on the audio, The Owner's Box, and also was on this too. We do the broadcast, and we try to do it pretty much like a professional broadcast. We remember that they're kids. Don't worry. We that is first and foremost. We're not yelling at them as if they're Shaq or Kobe, or may he rest, or any of the pro stars. We understand that these kids are amateur athletes in the purest form, and that's why I have Alex helping me out. Because as a former coach, he can explain to the viewers or listeners in his studious and steady manner that what they're doing out there, and maybe what they could do to improve, or maybe what's working really well. But we keep it definitely positive. And in Mansfield, I've worked with Alex at times, and I work with Tom Ferry, and anybody in Mansfield knows Tom. I guess you could almost say he's practically Mr. Mansfield right now. He's a former athlete in Mansfield. He's coached in the youth leagues. He has been the longtime public address announcer for football games at the Mansfield High School football field. And in fact, they even did a story about him in the Boston Globe this past year, which and others. But as you know, Thanksgiving we had no football this year, which is unusual for Massachusetts. And so the article was talking about some of the people who work behind the scenes and are left without anything to do this year. Now, Tom had the fortunate aspect a couple of years ago to call a game from the Fenway Park press box when Mansfield and Foxborough played in a ridiculous triple overtime game on a very cold night at America's most beloved ballpark. And so that must have been a fun experience. I mean, I've had great times going up into the booths in the TD Garden, and I worked out of Bob Sosi and Scott Zolak's booth for some of the MIAA Super Bowls a couple of years ago that we were covering for the National Federation of High Schools. So we worked together, and sometimes I even pull my old buddy Glenn Farley in to the into the ranks. He's my hockey sidekick also, as well as my football sidekick, because I don't know shit about hockey. I'm sorry. I mean, I watch it. I've been watching it in a pedestrian sense since I was a kid. I mean, I know the basics, but I'm not really. I'm certainly not Jack Edwards. I'm certainly not Doc Emmerich, who is at the top of the pantheon of hockey announcers, and hope he will enjoy his retirement. But I've done my best to at least be the, I guess you might say, traffic cop, and say a couple of names, and then when something happens, Glenn's the guy who comes in and tries to explain what happened, and especially if I missed the goal, which, as you'll see, there's been some interesting circumstances. I pulled some video clips, and I will show some of them to you as we go along here, because I really think I'm really getting to enjoy this. I mean, I'm 67 years old. This is not going to be a future career. I'm not the next Jim Nantz. I may be the size of the former Patriots fullback Jim Nantz, different spelling. But I think it's just fun. It's something I always wanted to do, and as you've seen on an occasional broadcast or two here where we've talked about it, I have really, I'm just so glad I get a chance to do it. So we'll go into that a little bit, and I also want to talk about a couple of things going down the road, maybe the vaccination schedule and how I think I messed up my knee again and other things. So as I pull out the Hugh Hefner pipe, I welcome you again, and keep hitting this, to another episode of The Owner's Box After Dark. And I'll give you an early commercial today, just for laughs, and so I can organize myself after we come back from the break. And I also want to eat some of this food before it gets stone cold, because it is cold in here. This is the one room in my house where the cold just radiates right in, and that's why I'm dressed like Nanook of the North today. So we'll be back after this brief break, and we'll see some video. Yum. This is my after dinner mint. I don't allow myself too much in this regard, but I've got to have something sweet and tasty every now and then. So thank you, York's Mints. Keep them in the freezer so it takes forever for them to melt. Welcome to the Owner's Box After Dark. And in just this short time that it took me to finish my pastaroni, the temperature's gone down to 11 degrees above zero Fahrenheit here in beautiful Mansfield, Massachusetts. Definitely put it down as one of your top destinations when we can travel again. Okay, I want to get into some of the video that I've accumulated, because I want to share with you kind of the joy that I have in covering high school sports. It's still you say, Mark, you're 67, haven't you outgrown that yet? And the answer is no, I haven't, because I love it. I mean, I enjoy it. It's not that I wish I could be it or do it. Those days have long since passed, and even when I was young enough, I couldn't do it anyway. So, but I love watching athletes compete, and in moments of duress, and see how they excel. And, you get down to it, too. This season, as much as it's great to have high school basketball back, it's so sad that it can't take place in front of crowds, or large crowds. Here in Mansfield, they are allowing 2 parents and a sibling to attend. Do I have something on my nose? And they, as I said in Foxborough, they're not allowing anybody, which that's why Lisa Downs put the cable TV crew exemption in effect. But, it's definitely a different atmosphere. I mean, I covered a game. Tommy and I were at a game this year, and strangely enough, the Mansfield boys in Attleboro put on some great games, and you've seen video here of the end of last year's tournament game where there were 1,500 people or more in the Mansfield gym, most of them on one side of the floor, Attleboro fans, and it was a 2-point game that was almost stolen away at the buzzer by a 3-pointer by graduated Attleboro senior Brian Sissio. And just the atmosphere and the noise and the heat and the vibrations just raise you and raised me as a broadcaster, and I'm sure it raised the athletes because they feed off of that. Well, this year that's not there for them. The competition has to be enough, and the joy of competition. I think I've seen some instances where that is actually in effect. Now, what I want to show you first is a bit of a sequence, and I'm going to tip my cap to a couple of kids from Mansfield High School. Their names are Maddie Bowen and TJ Guy. Maddie Bowen, you'll see, will be the kind of tousle-haired, skinny kid wearing number 2 in black and green. And TJ Guy will be the more burly guy wearing number 5. And they've played together for the better part of the last 3 years. And unfortunately, TJ suffered a slight Achilles injury a couple of games ago, and as a precaution, because he is a commit to Michigan to play football, way to go Wolverines, he's going to sit out as a precaution. And I don't know yet what that means for the upcoming high school football season, which is going to start February 22nd. Is this bizarro world or what? But as basketball players, they are just fun to watch. And in this first sequence, you're going to see a sequence where Maddie gets a basket and then misses a free throw, but TJ tips it back to him, and Maddie scores. And then TJ steals the ball, and he just slams it home against King Philip. And, that is just what I enjoy watching, is these kids being able to just excel on a stage, rather. And I think we'll start that right now.
I think that ball had a little too much on it.
It did have a lot on it. 58.9 seconds left to go, and it's 45-17. Mansfield leading King Philip here in the first half and this is the first half of a boys-girls doubleheader. So we'll see the girls team later today. Maddie Bowen on the steal, puts it up and in, rolls it in, and he is fouled in the process.
A lot of fouls so far in this game, Mark.
He has scored 19 points in this quarter alone. He has 21 in the game already. And misses that one. Gets the rebound. The rebound slapped back to him, and a basket. And that foul was on Evan Stevens, by the way. Steal. Guy dunks it. Guy puts it home. No doubt about that one. 51-17 here. That's pretty impressive stuff. But they're not the only kids who do that kind of stuff around here. And while the Hornets are 7-0 as I record this, and they have still about 4 or 5 more games, maybe more. They're trying to get extra games in their schedule the way things are messed up this year. You can still see things in other teams, moments where kids just really take it upon themselves to do something great. Like the King Philip boys, they lost all 5 starters last year from a team that scored something like 1,450 points in 23 ball games. That's a lot of points, and they had 5 really solid starters. And they overachieved to some extent. People didn't expect them to be as good as they were. Sadly, they all graduated. But the kids who have played this year for interim coach Jim Danielson have really given everything they have. Now, they haven't won a game yet. They've lost one by 1 point. Sad. It happened on the last basket of the game. But, I got to give them credit. They keep trying. They work hard. And one classic example of what I'm about to show you is a guard by the name of Charlie Grant. He's number 10. He's a senior. He got into a few games last year. Played some football. He may be the quarterback of the Warriors going forward. And he, you see a couple of instances where he just doesn't give up on the ball on the baseline and finally scores in tight against some pretty big competition. And then there's another cut I have where he gets the ball in the last couple of seconds and makes some magic. And let's take a look at Charlie Grant in action for King Philip.
To DeGiorgio in the corner to Byfield. Byfield aggressively covered and stolen by Silveria. Silveria gets the ball back after a deflection, takes the shot, no good. Rebound by Sullivan, gives it to Grant. Grant in the corner. KP is working really hard. Grant on the baseline drive, under hits the batter, gets his own rebound, puts it in. Charlie Grant never gave up on that ball.
Great follow-up on his own miss. Super play by Grant. Great effort.
The shot is good. 11-11. King Philip will inbound it, being pressed. Charlie Grant has it. 2-1. Throws the basket up. Oh! He gets it!
Score it.
Half-court shot! 3 points for Charlie Grant. What a basket!
A running right-hander from just inside the mid-court line. Holy smoke.
I'd call that about 42 feet.
Now, of course, I've also enjoyed watching the girls' teams, as I always have. And here's a classic example of something that I just like seeing. I like seeing a team execute. And especially one that, is undergoing its own kind of challenge. The Mansfield High girls didn't make the tournament last year. They just barely missed it. But their coach, Mike Redding, after 22 years, he gave up the job because he could become the athletic director, and he's still the football coach up there. So he turned the team over to his trusted assistant, Heather McPherson, who knows basketball. She was a starting guard for the Hornets, of course, has been with Mike on the sidelines for about 10 years. And these kids are seniors for the most part, and they know her. And so they have pretty much tried to put it all together. Now, every now and then, too, a younger kid comes up and does something really good. And what you're going to see here is one of the happier moments of the season, in which a sophomore for the Mansfield Hornets makes a huge play at the end of a game against Attleboro. And her name is Abby Wager, and I think you're going to enjoy watching this moment.
I think I'd like to see Ashley Santos or Abby Wager take it to the basket. Strong drive, force him to foul. Don't settle for anything outside.
Abby Wager will
Help.
take the ball out. Puts it in bounds.
Here we go.
Kayla Vine will bring it across.
See the play call here.
14 seconds
Dueling.
left. Dueling.
Wager.
Now Wager's going to go into the basket. Lays it in. 7 seconds left.
D it up. D it up. No
The
foul.
freshman has the ball. Will she do it now? Off to Riley with the three-point shot.
And it's
off
over.
the rim. And the Hornets win. The Hornets win the game.
Abby Wager with a game-winning layup. Wow, I love it.
Terrific play to get that basket, and Attleboro gave it a good shot down at the other end. The final
What a
score,
game.
once again, Mansfield 54, Attleboro 53. Tom, it went back and forth, and it was pretty fun to watch.
That was fun. I love seeing a moment where you just see it develop in your head even before you get to say it. And then game-winning basket. I always wished I could have done something like that somewhere along the way. The Hornets, the girls, are hovering around 500 this year. And, they've had their ups and downs, but they had a really outstanding quarter in a game that was scheduled just almost only hours before they played it. They welcomed North Attleboro to Mansfield's home gym, the James Albertini Memorial Gymnasium. North is in the other division of the Hockomock League, the quote-unquote small school division. And normally, of course, they would play during a regular season. But this year, with the shortened schedule of 10 league games, they're only playing teams within your own division. So the Hornets play within the Kelly Rex, and they play the 5 opponents twice. And North Attleboro's been doing the same. But everybody's been given the opportunity to find a couple of other games, especially since A couple of schools have had some trouble keeping their teams on the court because of COVID-19 protocols. So here in the game against North Attleboro, as I said, which was scheduled only hours before they got to play it, the Hornet girls had an absolutely outstanding first quarter, their best of the year. And as you can see, things worked pretty well for them coming up to the end of the first quarter. Let's take a look.
Gets it off to McMath, no good, and the rebound is
One
corralled
shot.
by
Shot.
Sarah Dooling.
Hold
Kayla
it.
Vine will take it across with 24 seconds left to go. Inside to Viking
not.
for the basket. Casey Viking all alone underneath, and Kayla Vine found her.
19 first quarter points, Mark.
Good quarter by the Hornets.
Really?
Summer Doherty with the three. No good. Rebound by Dooling. 8 seconds to go.
7.
Gets it up to Ashley
One more.
Santos.
All right.
Waits for the defense to go by and scores. And that is the end of a really good quarter, the best quarter the Hornets have had this season so far. 21-12 over the North Attleboro Red Rocketeers, who did not play badly.
No.
You know, it's kind of basketball you wish you could bottle and use for the rest of the season. Now, it all comes back to me to, I think, the success of one of the teams. And unfortunately, I don't have a clip of the King Philip girls that I can share with you here, but they've had their good moments too. And I promise I will dig something up and bring it to your viewing pleasure at some later point. But it seems to come back to me to Mansfield Hornets because the boys are such fun to watch. And it's kind of bittersweet because you had a feeling that had this been a regular season, a normal season, they would have had a chance to qualify for a state tournament. Now, unfortunately, I think the injury to TJ Guy might have sidetracked that. But the fact is, they're still presented with the opportunity to play a schedule and to win a championship in their league. And they're doing the best they can with what they have to do. The kids are wearing masks. They're not complaining. They adhere to all of the changes in the game. Not that many, thank God, but they're just doing what they can to be out there and compete, and it's so fun to watch. For instance, they had a barn burner against Attleboro. Now, again, if you had had a huge crowd there, this one would have been off the top of the charts because coming off of last year's tournament game and to have another outstanding close game here, the Hornets again had to battle back from behind and they come back to win this. And sometimes you see a kid who just knows how to take things over, and that's Matty Bowen. His uncle, you may know, was the longtime coach of the Brockton High School boys basketball team, and he just retired this year. But Matty is the one of 3 Bowen brothers that have played here in town, and he may be the best. And right now he's got well over 800 career points, and I know that Mike Vaughn's trying to find some more games to see if he can get a chance to get him over 1,000, because Matty's been over 30 points in 4 of the games he's played so far this year, including a career-high 35. I think I summed it all up when I said something as Matty had scored a basket in the clip that you're about to see. And basically I said that I was going to miss saying that name, and you'll see why.
Even without TJ Guy on the court tonight, these Hornets have looks like they fended off a very strong challenge, but there's still time in this game. And that was a smart move. They gave it to Hill out of bounds, and Hill immediately, it was the inbounder. Matty Bowen took off, and a foul.
That's coaching, folks.
So Matty Bowen will be the shooter.
You just got to wait for Chris White to establish Chris
Hill
to establish his feet out of bounds before you pass it to him.
Eaton, that's his second foul. 18 fouls, and Mark Hool brings in the bigs. White and Harrison are the rebounders. Brian C. is the lone rebounder for Mansfield. Matty Bowen will go to the foul line. All right, he's reached his career high for the 3rd time. That's 32. Let's see if he can get a new career high here. And And he does. 33 points. His new career high, 64-58 Mansfield. 16.4 seconds left.
Don't foul.
Who will bring it up practically untouched in the middle. But
Bowen with the steal.
A steal by Bowen off of Daniels. And he goes in and he's fouled and he gets the basket. With 6 seconds left, Matty Bowen. I'm going to miss saying that name.
Yeah. 35 on the night.
Basketball is fun. Probably my favorite sport. I couldn't play it that well. I did play some high school baseball. I wasn't that good. I wasn't good at all, to be honest. And, of course, I covered pro football for 40 years plus, and so I certainly have a warm spot in my heart for pro football. But I love basketball. But this year I decided to try to cover hockey. Go out there and call a game. And I want to show you something that happened in the game between Franklin High and King Philip at the Pirelli Veterans Arena in Franklin. It will end up being a 6-1 Franklin victory. And I think never having called hockey before, I think after a while I started to get, the funny thing, they were only playing halves this year. They're playing 2 halves instead of 3 periods. Try to speed things up, cut down the COVID exposure, etc. I think late in the first half and heading into the second, I was starting to feel like, yeah, I think I can do this. I think I can say what's right and then let Glenn Farley bail me out. Well, here's a thing. Here's something that happened that he just couldn't bail me out of. As you'll see, a Franklin player scores a goal at one of the most inopportune times for an announcer.
Put in, no. Abbott goes to the ice. He smothers the puck.
Dangerous rebound, but he was able to tie it up.
He got a little help there also from number 16 for KP, Quinn Gartzka. While we have a moment here, I will remind everybody today's game is being presented to you by W.H. Riley & Son, serving the area's heating oil, propane, and cooling needs since 1873. That's W.H. Riley & Son, 35 Chestnut Street in North Attleboro and 125 Winter Street, and there's a goal. Number 28, Ben Jaros, the sophomore for Franklin, knocks one in right while I'm doing the commercial.
Go back to the commercial, Mac. It's 4-0.
14-19 left to go in this contest. Franklin makes it 4-0.
And that is a dagger right there.
It certainly is. Anyway, folks, keep your family warm this winter by trusting the W.H. Riley & Son family.
I just hope that the folks at W.H. Riley & Son were not that upset about the fact that I couldn't finish the commercial because I had to tell people that there was a goal. They better not be upset. They provide my heating oil here at Palatial Fulton Pond Studios. And very pleased with their service. And I'm also very thankful to the 2 North TV sponsors that we have that are really into high school sports, W.H. Riley & Son of Taunton and North Attleboro, and Asians Garage of North Attleboro, which also has a tow truck based within a football field's length of where I live. They put money and support into our coverage of high school sports, and they did it too when I was at the Sun Chronicle in Attleboro, and we would do our special sections, and you could always count on ads from them when nobody else would be buying ads. So thank you to them. I'm sorry I messed up the commercial, but I'm learning. We will be back with one last segment after another one of these wonderful commercials.
早くマック行けよ。
食べてないの私だけ。
三角チョコパイ黒白どっちも美味しい。
Welcome back to the Owner's Box After Dark. I am your host, Mark Farinella, on this incredibly chilly night here in the gem of northern Bristol County, if you don't mind me stealing a slogan from Foxborough, which calls itself the Gem of Norfolk County. Just a couple of topics I wanted to get into before it's time to wrap this one up. I mean, I haven't done one in so long. I could probably go way too long, and I don't want to. Also, it's going to take me a day or two to get this one out because I have a heavy schedule. I might be able to get it out on Saturday, so if I can, good. I don't have any games to cover tomorrow, but there is a doubleheader I want to watch on live streaming if I can, because it has to do with the next game I have to cover. I do have a doubleheader to cover with Alex Salaki for North TV on Sunday of the King Philip boys and girls against Attleboro. And that starts at 1 o'clock, and we do live stream nowadays. We go live, I tell you. No F-bombs from me, I'll tell you that. But you know what? I always respected, anytime I got behind a microphone, and unless it's my own microphone, which, you know, you've heard a few choice words out of me during this series of podcasts, but if I'm behind a microphone that is out there for the real audience, well, not that you folks aren't, but no, I clean it up, definitely. And even when things go wrong, I've been good about that. So, yeah, we have that, and then I have on Monday, I have a hockey game as the King Philip boys will be taking on Taunton. At least I hope they are. Taunton has only played one game this year. They've postponed, scheduled, tried to reschedule, or outright canceled just about everything else because they're in a COVID mess down there. And then on Tuesday, we're supposed to get a huge snowstorm here. So I think there's going to be issues with the next couple of Mansfield games I have to do, but we'll cross that bridge when the plow goes over it. So anyway, first topic I want to get into really quickly is the Biden administration. Yeah, I haven't really talked much about the end of the Trump administration or the insurrection at the Capitol. I leave that to people with a greater depth of knowledge about what's actually going on instead of what I just see on television. Believe me, I have some really choice words to say about a couple of representatives, Green and Boebert. Is it Boebert or Brobert? Boebert, whatever. The pistol packing mama from Colorado and the QAnon idiot from Georgia. Yeah, they should be out in the street somewhere. But I'm going to skip over that because that's for a later time, and maybe something good will happen before I get to talk about it. The main thing I want to get into is the fact that I'm really happy that the new administration is taking a very aggressive tack at trying to fix the problems that they inherited in terms of the COVID-19, quote-unquote, Operation Warp Speed. Talk about an insult to Star Trek. They inherited a mess, and they're trying to fix it, and they're being open, and they're being aggressive about it. Certainly there are now more vaccination sites opening up, at many of them at major stadiums. Here in the Boston area, Fenway Park, Gillette Stadium will be serving as mass vaccination stations once they are able to get cranked up, and they go through those tiers of priorities that they have, and I'm not on the top one yet. One thing I really like is that they've gone back to having the daily press briefing, and the press secretary, Jen Psaki, is thoroughly professional. You know, and I'm not going to get into the business of looks. That was the last administration's thing. I mean, after going through Sean Spicer, Anthony Scaramucci, and Sarah Huckabee Sanders, they tried to find a Barbie somewhere, and they did, in Kayleigh McEnany. You know, with the puffy hair and the, you know, wide-eyed look, and even though she does have a law degree, I don't want to sound sexist, but I called her Propaganda Barbie. She lied. She was nasty to the media. She was only out there to spout the Trump message of the day, took questions only from the favorable conservative media, and then she left, usually in a huff, leaving reporters with nothing. So Jen Psaki is a real pro. You can just see it. She treats everybody respectfully. She answers questions honestly. If she doesn't have the answer, she'll tell them. And if the answer isn't necessarily what that reporter might not want to hear, especially if that reporter's from Fox News, then she just says, look, you know, that's the way it is. Smile, and that's it. So it's good to see professionals back in charge of the country again. It really is. There's a lot more I could say, but I won't because I don't have that much time. The next thing I'd like to talk about, I mentioned Gillette Stadium will be a vaccination site. Now, again, I still have to wait a while, and it's a little scary. I mean, the numbers are still terrible. I'm out in crowds again. Not big crowds. I mean, very few of these schools have huge crowds, but, there's been outbreaks in the Hockomock League. Some schools have lost games from it, have had to close their facilities. Even last week, King Philip, the school that I spend about as much time as I do anywhere else, they had to close and go remote again for their students for the learning process because they had an outbreak. I think they had 8 active cases or something like that. They just early today being Friday, they just gave the okay for a couple of makeup games against Attleboro on Saturday, and then the doubleheader that I was scheduled to cover on Sunday. So I'm going to go in there with like 4 masks on and openly bathe in hand sanitizer and hope we get through it in one piece. I mean, let's face it, your broadcast team is not young. Alex is a month older than I am, so he's 67, I'm 67. Neither of us can get vaccinated yet. Right now, the key is for people 75 and older or for first responders and so on. I've been tested 3 times. I got tested 2 weeks ago because I was a little bit afraid. I thought that maybe this new exposure might have created something. I've been sniffling a little bit. My throat is raspy because of all the games I've been calling and the ones I've had to shout at, and there have been a lot of them. But I have none of the other symptoms, but I still went for the test, and again, it was negative. That was my 3rd. But, that just means how you are at that moment. Who knows what could happen further down the road? So I'm just hoping that they will finally open things up a little bit, and maybe in a month or so. And believe me, I'll be the first one to stick my arm out there and say, poke away. So do the best we can there and hope for the best, and really hope for the best for everybody. One last story, too. Yeah, I mentioned that my knee is sore again. Well, here's what happened. We had a small snowstorm here on Monday of this week. And Tuesday, it was Tuesday morning. That's right. So I had a game to cover here to do the broadcast for at Mansfield High. For some reason, it wasn't a heavy snowfall. It was only about an inch or 2, but I figured I could wear a pair of smooth-soled Reeboks that I have instead of a pair of shit-kicker boots, instead of my Timberlands or any of those. And so I walked into the hallway at the gymnasium, wiped my feet several times on the carpeting, and then when I get off the carpeting and go onto the linoleum, and I'm walking, minding my own business, heading towards the gymnasium, and all of a sudden I just felt my left foot slip completely out from underneath my body. Whoosh! Well, I don't know how I landed the way I did, because you'd think I would have landed on my back for that reason, but instead I landed basically on all 4s. Maybe I'm a cat. I was a cat in a previous life. And and I landed bang, bang on both knees on the very hard hallway floor. Coffee I had in one hand, of course, went flying and spilled all over this freshly waxed, beautiful hallway. Briefcase flying, didn't open. Headset that I had goes flying another direction. Fortunately, it was in the box. And I'm down on the ground, and all of a sudden, I happened to do this right in front of the meeting room where the boys' basketball team, the Mansfield team, was having its pregame meeting. So they peeked their heads out, a couple of members, and they see me down on the floor, not moving much, because I always go through this checklist when something like that happens. First of all, it hurt like hell, especially my left knee, because that's the one I had the surgery on. And I landed exactly where the surgery was, right on the meniscus area. And so I go through this checklist usually, like, can I move something? Has anything broken? Before I move, should I just make sure I feel internally that all is well? At that point, everybody starts running out of the room. Oh, my God, Mr. Farrell, you're right, you're right. You know, I'm like, yeah, give me a second. So I kind of sat down, rolled over. My knee was throbbing. I see the coffee and I'm like, oh man, I'm sorry I spilled the coffee all over the place. These kids went back in the room, grabbed towels and everything, paper towels, and they came out and mopped it up for me. Preparing for a high school basketball game, and they spend time mopping up the floor for the clumsy reporter. One of the staff members got a chair out in the hallway, and I was able to kind of prop myself up because it was stiff, and like still kind of numb. Once I was able to sit down, I realized I could bend everything all right, and they were all very concerned. Are you all right? Do you need anything? I was like, and yeah, I was just incredibly mortified by this whole thing because it looked like clumsy old man. But fortunately, I didn't break my hip or anything like that. So I finally got up. I thanked everybody, especially, I think I must have thanked them 100 times for mopping up the coffee. And one of the guys said, well, yeah, at least the hallway smells really great right now. I went into the gymnasium. I did my broadcast. I did the call of the game. It was a good game. And when I got home that night, yeah, both knees were swollen. The next day, not too good. Yesterday, not so bad. Just sore, stiff. It doesn't look like there's any additional damage. I did have to bail out of a physical therapy session, though, so we'll see how that goes. It's been since August, and I'm kind of used to the feeling of having a knife stuck in one leg. The other knee, that scares me a little bit, though. It's a little sore right around the kneecap. But we'll get through. First world problems, right? Okay. As we wrap up today, I do want to mention one thing, and I apologize in advance if I mispronounce the young man's name. You've probably seen that a young hockey player for Bishop Feehan High School suffered a catastrophic injury at a game they were playing out in Springfield. And he's already had surgery once. His name is AJ. I know I'm going to mispronounce. It's either Quetta or Ketta. Quetta. I don't know him. I haven't covered Bishop Feehan hockey hardly ever, I don't think. But what a terrible feeling to know that something as innocent as just being kind of like crashing into the boards could cause something like that. Now, not just the Feehan community, but so many other organizations and individuals, the Patriots, the Bruins, they've fully gotten behind this. There is a GoFundMe account out there, and they were hoping to raise $10,000. In just a couple of days, they have raised almost $600,000 for his surgeries, for his hopeful recovery, for whatever needs the family has. The family's from North Providence. A lot of Feehan kids come from Rhode Island. If you have it in your heart, go to GoFundMe.com and you'll just type in the first two letters, AJ, and you'll find the account and you'll see a list of incredible people that have contributed to it. And so many other contributions haven't even been sent to that yet. I mean, some of them have been collected by other outfits, other organizations. So Tim Sullivan, the president of Bishop Feehan High School, mentioned that he thinks that the total may be well over $1 million right now that's been raised. I gave a few dollars. I won't say how many. I'm not trying to brag. I just sit back and I think this poor kid and his family, they need help. And for those of us that are more fortunate and have managed to make it through our own personal clumsiness without doing something terrible to myself, if there's anything I can do to help, is the least I could do. And I see a list of hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of names that have done something good. So please consider getting on board with that. And that will be it for tonight's episode of the Owner's Box After Dark. I hope, first of all, I want to remind you, you can email me at theownersbox2020 at gmail.com. Almost forgot that. And yeah, we are keeping the 2020 because even though it was a horrible year, I believe that this podcast was something positive, and so I'm going to keep that there to remind me that something good came out of that year. emails 2020, the owner's box 2020 at gmail.com. Go to my website and you can see other information. My blog, Blogging Fearlessly, is there. Schedules of my broadcasts, also, which I have to update because I haven't updated it in a while. I'm sorry about that. And that is at www.theownersbox2020.com. And you can send me snail mail at the Owner's Box, Post Office Box 272, Mansfield, Massachusetts, 02048. I want to remind you to use your hand sanitizer. Be good about that. Wear your mask. Remember, I'm doing my broadcast with one of these things on, so they don't sound all that bad. And President Biden has made this law, basically, in any federal building. So if you go into a post office and you don't have a mask, you're in deep trouble. You're in a heap of trouble, son. So wear your masks. Think about others before. Hey, we're pretty good about that here, I got to admit. Here in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, I think we've done well with that. And just please take care of yourself and take care of your family, and let's hope for the best. Maybe we've been through the worst. I hope so. But let's just hang in there a little bit longer. It's almost been a year. We're strong. We'll get through it. Thanks again for watching, listening, and come back again soon. Good night, everybody.